Let's have a music revolution. Revolution, revolution. Let's have a music revolution. Revolution, revolution. Everybody clap your hands. Music revolution. Everybody clap your hands. Everybody clap your hands.
You're here on our show, Music Revolution, with myself, Andrew Soos, and consummate music lover, Plastic EP. We've got a special guest, Jack Hodgins, in the studio today. And the good task for you today, you can help us decide what the name of this new book is going to be about. But it's about the Hoadley Battle of the Bands, a competition that ran statewide and even nationwide in Australia from 67, I believe, to 72, Jack.
Yeah, g'day guys. Yeah, no, it's great to be here. I'm very, very honoured to be asked.
Now, we're rapt to have you on because I'm going to tell you, I'm a child of the 60s, grew up in Campbell and East Hawthorne here, and I went to Auburn South State School, not that it matters, but walking past the Campbell Civic Centre, in my mind, I believe that there was a battle of the bands of some type at the Civic Centre, or must have been a reception. I don't know what it was, but there was things going on in the 60s. That's why this subject fascinates me, Jack. So, I mean, and the great thing is, you're getting everything about the book, and anybody who knows anything about it, because there's posts all over the net, give them your email. If they got information, they can get in touch with you. They might be able to help you on information on the book. You agree?
Yeah. Well, anyone who's got any information, I'm still looking for anything I can find. So, So if anyone wants to email me, my email is jackhodgins67@gmail.com, and email me through the information. Like what I'm looking for is the name of the band, what Hoadley Heat you played in what year, songs, and and then I kind of just go from there. And if I have any follow-up questions, I ask them. But that's kind of what I'm looking for. If anyone out there, if you played in a band back in the 60s and you played Hoadley's, please, I'm interested.
Now, what I've got to say is people have to understand what this is all about, because we've got all new music generations. My understanding is the Hoadley Battle of the Bands was the biggest thing out there, because bands got to go to the UK. Because when you're in Australia, the big deal was you go to the UK. It's like the Seekers. They made it. They went to England and they recorded for EMI. So just tell me what the contest was all about.
Sure. Well, just before I go on, I'll just say it was called Battle of the Sounds, not Battle of the Bands, just to get that right. I mean, it's an interesting thing. I was thinking about that when you kind of messaged me about this interview, and I was kind of thinking what we're going to talk about. I thought, it's an interesting thing, because we were very musically in Australia at that time, as you mentioned there, the Seekers, we were very aligned to the British scene. Everyone wanted to go to Britain. America wasn't really in our consciousness then. So it was really important because, it gave bands a chance to go to England. I mean, I think Hoadley's gave them $2,000 spending money. You got to go there for free. Of course, you had to pay your way once you got there, once you ran out of money. And, it wasn't perfect. But it certainly gave bands like the Twilights, it gave bands the Groove, the Group, chances to go to England, and I've been able to speak to a few of them. I spoke to the drummer of the Groove on my show, and I think it was still pretty hard over there once people got there, because you might be established in Australia, but to go to England, where much bigger scene over there, you're not established unless you're having hit records over there too, which a lot of them weren't. It wasn't perfect, but it still gave them a chance to go over there and at least have a go at it. So I think that was a pretty important part of it, yeah.
Just tell us the name of your show. It's a radio show, isn't it?
Yeah. Vinyl Vibes. It's on a few stations here and there, on community stations across Australia. Yeah.
I understand there were some very big names that had their break through that competition. Am I right that Bon Scott, later from ACD, actually performed on that? And I understand that when he competed, he actually beat Sherbet, and it wasn't until the year after that that Sherbet had their time in the limelight and actually won the competition.
Yeah, yeah, the Valentines. Yeah, well, you're right. I do. I think you're right. I do think there was a time where I think it might have been one of the Sydney heats. Like I haven't finalised that part of my book yet. I think you're talking 70s here. So I've done quite a bit of the 60s stuff. But you're on. I think you. I do remember reading that in my research. So, but yeah, you're right. I think yeah, but no, Bon Scott, yeah, the Valentines, yeah, well they didn't win it ever, but they in the grand final, but they did get through to the grand final in a few in might have been 68, I want to say. I'm going off the top of my head there, but so that I'm not sure, but yeah, but no, like that, it's interesting because this is the thing too. Coming back to what we're talking for with England and all that, I think what was really important is that it gave bands a taste of success. Whether or not they won it or not. I think even with those bands that did make it to England, perhaps didn't make it in England first. I mean, if you look at the Twilights, I mean, Glenn Shorrock, I mean, he made it big over there eventually with his records. So I think it gave people a chance to have that success, but also learn a bit about how the music industry worked, a bit about, and I think that's an important aspect too, just building on what you were saying there and what you're asking. And so, yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, Bon Scott, yeah, a legendary part of Oz rock history, yeah, in the Valentines, they were in Hoadley's, yeah.
Okay, let's just see the two clips from them, right? The Valentines, My Old Man's a Groovy Old Man, one of my favourite songs. And they're doing that clip in the exhibition building here in Melbourne. There's Hot Rods. And they also had a song, right, which is Build Me Up Buttercup.
Yep.
And also they had the Izzy Die Dancers, right? If Izzy Die's watching, I just want you to know we all love you. And also I want to say, Glenn Shorrock from the Twilights, what fantastic songs. My favourite, Needle in the Haystack.
but I love you still.
Like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Yeah, a needle in a haystack. Shoot, water, shoot, water. Boys, those girls outside, big and shy. Don't ever let them get you in the starry eyes. They'll tell you that you love him true. Why they'll walk right over you. Well, you better get the thing right off your back. Find a good girl man, like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Yeah, a needle in a haystack. Shoot, water, shoot, water. Like trying to find a needle in a haystack. A needle in a haystack.
It's amazing as an Australian to see what happens with bands when they do get their break and they go overseas.
Yeah.
I remember the band The Flowers that became Ice House, and just the amazing change in their sound once they'd come back from a spell in England. So I can really understand what's behind that. Do you think that it did grow the music industry in Australia?
I think it did. I think because, it was national, it really got people involved. I mean, not just the musicians themselves, but, I'm reading over these old newspaper clippings for the book, and, I'm constantly reading that, 500 to 1,000 teenagers would pack out these venues. Like we're talking like 60, so there was about 60 or so heats in Hoadley's, and so, it's like 60,000, 30 to 60,000 teenagers are packing out these venues across Australia just to see these local bands. So I think that was part of it. So I think it did grow. It got people interested. And I think it was today, someone was, because working on the book whenever I have the time to, and someone was over Facebook, someone was saying, oh yeah, I played in so-and-so band. And I remember people forming bands just to play in Hoadley's. So I think it did grow the industry. I think it got people interested. It got people involved. So I'd say it most certainly would have definitely been a part of growing our music industry in Australia. I think that's very fair. Yeah.
Now, also got to say, the Hermits, I believe they came in 66 or 65 and they had their own show. It was filmed at the Hilton Hotel here in Melbourne, right? And it was called the Hermits Play for Hilton. And of course, even though they played at the Hilton, it was about Hilton stockings, right? They were sponsoring it. But the show was done, I believe, at the Hilton. Now, you got to understand, when they were performing the Hermits, and you watch the show on YouTube, we're going to have a look a little bit now of that. They're being hit by streamers from all these Australian fans, and these guys didn't understand what streamers are. And there were so many streamers that it actually could knock out the singer because they're copping all these things, paper from everywhere, filling the stage and everything. They just didn't get it. They didn't get it. They didn't understand what's this streamer thing. Even the Monkeys, when they came in 68, they're being bombarded by streamers. And it's only Australia that actually did it. We had this thing for streamers.
Hilton, makers of ladder-proof nylons, present Herman's Hermits Hilton Show. And here they are, Herman's Hermits.
Every time I see you looking my way, baby, baby, can't you hear my heartbeat? In the park, walking down the highway, baby, baby, can't you hear my heartbeat? When you ask me to meet your man, I knew the baby we'd be going far. Can't you hear the pounding of my heartbeat? You're the one I love. You're the one I love. When I feel you put your arms around me, oh, baby, baby, can't you hear my heartbeat? I'm glad I found you, baby, baby, can't you hear my heartbeat? When you ask me to teach your mind, baby, be going far. Can't you hear the pounding of my heartbeat? You're the one I love. You're the one I love. Hey! This one's a P.F. Sloan song called She's a Must to Avoid. She's a must to avoid, a complete impossibility. She's a must to avoid, you better take it from me. Well, you think she's a prize at the start? Take my advice, play it smart. She's nothing but trouble, better cut out on the double before she gets into your heart. She's a must to avoid, a complete impossibility. She's a must to avoid, you better take it from me. When you stare into her pretty blue eyes, there's no way to see through her disguise. Try to love her, cause you'll quickly discover you're trapped in the web of her eyes. She's a must to avoid, a complete impossibility. She's a must to avoid, you better take it from me.
That's interesting. I thought it was international. That's really I had no idea. I always thought streamers would just
No.
that's just what you did. That's really I didn't know that. Yeah.
Well, there you go. That's something you might put in the book. But I tell you, even the Hermit Servants were talking about what happened here. Now, listen, I'm so Australian at heart that you've got to understand. The first international pop group were the Seekers. So here's the Seekers with Georgia Girl in the charts at the same time that I'm a Believer by the Monkees is hitting #1. So they're our ambassadors of Australia before anybody. Yeah. We've got to give them credit. That's true. Every time I hear it, it's true Australiana that I'm hearing. Their songs are just unbelievable. And Georgia Girl was using the film in the UK, right? Called Georgia Girl.
Yeah.
Rock and roll was so very young when this competition started. I mean, the Beatles had only really just left a few years beforehand. Makes me think a bit of the stories that you hear of punk music, that everyone who left the concert started their own band and bought some guitars. I'd imagine that the setups on stage would have been very simple affairs. I'm expecting a couple of guitars, a very basic drum kit, and maybe a bass guitar to be seen. Was that pretty much it, what you'd see?
Yeah, pretty. So I think Hoadley's. So the bands would they would when you play. At least I know for the grand finals, and I think probably the country finals, which they had before the grand finals, that Hoadley set up all the stuff before. So you would get there, the bands would get there, and as you say, very basic affair. Basically, just the normal drums, guitar, bass, that stuff. Although some people did use an organ, so they set up an organ. But yeah, very simple. But I mean, that was characteristic of music at the time. It was very simple. Well, compared to today, I mean, I think it's great the music then, and I think the simplicity was great. But it was very simple. And yeah, very simple. Setup. It was pretty much just what you would imagine from music of that time. That was the setup. Rhythm, lead, guitar, drums, bass, an organ sometimes. Yeah, it was just very simple. Yeah.
Now, also got to say, right, you got to understand, here in Australia, they protected the Australian industry. So when A sides were coming, like A songs that were #1 around the world, those original artists didn't get the chance to do it because they let Australian artists do it, right?
Yep.
I don't know if you know that. There was like an embargo. Is that correct? Import embargo.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if there was I don't think I've heard of an embargo of
Well,
an official one, but
do some research on it because they
yeah,
protected the industry. Now, I'll give you an example. Mungo Jerry puts out Push
yeah,
Bike song, right? Nah, he doesn't. The mixtures do it. They don't allow Mungo Jerry's version, right?
yep.
And I don't know about the Town Cries, right? But they were fantastic with Everlasting Love. And they're the ones that had the hit here, not the band. I think in England they're called what was it called? Love or something. What's the name of the guy? Stephen something. He was the lead singer of that
Love
band.
Affair or something, I think.
Yeah, Love Affair.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, in England it was Love Affair, right? So
yeah.
there you go. How come we didn't hear their version? I never heard their version
Well, I
because
think
they
that
did it. They did the song here. Who knows? I don't know the story with the Town Cries, but all I know is the only version of Everlasting Love I know of is the Town
that's right.
Cries.
Yeah, well, it's a good version. I think. Well, in the case of the Mixtures song you mentioned, I mean, there was the 1970 radio ban. That there was the record companies between the record companies and particular record companies and radio stations. There was I think the radio stations were refusing to pay the record companies for playing the records, and so they kind of so what you kind an unofficial embargo by so what
Yeah.
you're mentioning there. So yeah, so that's why you had
Ah,
found around that time in 1970. The Mixtures, groups like that, they were covering these overseas songs and having big hits here because, well, the international versions, weren't getting airplay, so people weren't buying them. The Town Cries song, though, it's interesting you mentioned that because I was looking over for some reason looking over the Ghost Set charts, and that song you mentioned, yeah, the Town Cries version and the what are Love Affair the Love Affair version
yeah, that's right.
it was in the charts at the same time.
Oh, of
So
course, but we only
yeah,
knew the Town Cries. So, I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
that makes sense to me that the radio stations are backing the Australian artists and they wouldn't play the ones from the UK and the US. Now, that makes more sense.
Open up your eyes, then you realize, yeah, I stand with my everlasting love. Need you by my side, girl, to be my bride. You'll never be denied everlasting love. From the very start, open up your heart, realize you're part of everlasting love. True love will last forever. Where a river flows, no one really knows. No someone's there to show the way to lasting love. Like the sun and shines, endlessly it shines. You always will be mine, and eternal love. When other loves are gone, ours will still be strong. We'll have our very own everlasting love. True love will last forever.
See, you got to understand, we wave the flag for Australian artists. And that's what we're doing here today. And
Absolutely.
all of them, as I said, they all played a big part in the Australian scene. And I'm only from, even though I'm international, I know everything that's going on in the 60s from overseas, the artists and everything. What we had here in Australia was unique. And our
Yeah.
artists were unique, and the songs were unique.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, what comes to my mind about I was talking to I don't know if you've ever heard of Denny Davidson. He's the drummer of Temem Shud. He's very big on what you're talking about, and he mentioned how I'm not sure on the exact dates, but we were talking about exactly what you're talking about, and he mentioned how back in the day, I'm not exactly sure when that exactly was, but when we'd have international musicians coming over from England, whatever. If you had a band from England, you'd have to match it with an Australian band, on the same bill. I think that's what he told me. So I don't think we have that anymore. It doesn't. It's not guaranteed. So I think that was probably a good thing that if you have a band coming in from England that they you also have to have an Aussie band. I think that I think that also probably was part of driving the domestic, Australian music industry, and I think that was probably a good thing. We certainly probably don't get that guarantee anymore. I'm not sure on specifics of when that stopped or all that, but just anecdotally, that's kind of what comes to mind. Yeah.
Well, also I got to say about Daddy Cool. I mean, Eagle Rock, an Australian anthem. Ross
Yeah.
Wilson, Australian music legend, with the rest of the Daddy Cool group. And if you watch their documentary, right, their DVD and whatever, the pink one, Daddy Cool, the drummer says, we didn't want to go to England. They were pushing us to go to America. And we're thinking, well, we're doing like rock and roll songs, like that's what we're doing. Yeah, they'll probably go for it there more than the UK. He said it. He said, we'll go to America. And it ended up they did. That's why.
Yeah.
You got to pay respect to the people that are pioneers of the Australian music scene. Because there's nothing like it. And you come back to Australia and it's like, oh, they love me here in Australia, but out there, who knows me? That's how it was.
Well, I think I think you're right. I mean, I think and I say this a lot on my own show to people. I go, we had such great music here, but we never got the representation overseas. We never really cracked it over there. I mean, apart from a few like the Easy Beats, I think had a minor, I think a top 20 hit in America or New York.
Easy on my mind, right?
Yeah.
Produced by Shelv Tamley, who's passed away, and I was fortunate enough I interviewed him. But I'm saying, up until that point, you've got to understand, where are we in the music scene? Number one, the Seekers. They're the first pioneers, right? Then let's go, when we talk about music, like pop music, let's go then to the Easy Beats. And who's holding the torch after that? Tell me. You got like Olivia Newton-John when it was her turn.
Little River Band.
Little River Band, of course. But these are the people that broke through and made it.
Yeah. No, I agree. And, it's interesting because, there was that shift from like the focus on England to America, I feel, in Australia, because, as we kind of were talking about before, that was that really big focus on England. And, and I think, Harley's in some ways, I think was ahead of its time there because I think it's 1970 when they change it from you get a free ticket to England to a free ticket to LA.
To America.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember reading that when I was first starting this project and going, wow, I didn't realize it was that early that we were kind of going, you know what, America might actually be the place for Australian groups to go. I just think that just that mental realization was a very big one, but I think it took us a long time to make it in America. I think I spoke to someone from the Dingoes, the bass player of the Dingoes. They went to America. They are one of the kind of pioneers to go over there. And they didn't really crack it, but I mean, of course, the Little River Band. I mean, they completely smashed it over there. But I mean, it's just interesting when you look back over the history, kind of like what you were highlighting. Just that how that kind of changes and how and yeah, I just think it's I think that Hoadley's definitely was ahead in that. I think that was some good points what you mentioned as well.
Now, I just want to say, I'm really impressed with the show because what we're talking about something, we're pushing Australia and we know what we're talking about because you had to live it to know what it was. And I just want to say this point, if I may. Okay. I started writing songs when I was very young. In 1981, I released a song called At Home, and it was with Plastic EP and the Records. And we had the intention of only doing punk. We wanted to take on the UK. Like that was the formula before we started. So we practiced the song At Home for 2 years and we released it as a single. Well, there's no audience for that here in Australia. I can tell you in Melbourne and whatever. We never got any airplay. We didn't do anything. That record, At Home and Three Special Words, has become a classic. It sells for up to $500 on Discogs if you can find it. You had to do it yourself. But the mentality was right. We're as good as anyone in England before we started, and that's what we're going to do. And for a year, we had the punk sound, and then we went pop, and we became the EPs. But what I'm trying to say is here in Australia, who helps you? You help yourself. It's not an easy journey, and the ladder to the top, like AC/DC sing, it's a long way to the top. It's relevant to everything in the Australian music scene because that's what it was.
1, 2, 3, 4. At home, at home.
me? Hello? No one here with me. No one to turn to. No one to turn to. No one to turn to now. And I say, hey now, ooh now, what you gonna do now? Hey now, ooh now, you're feeling blue now. Hey now, ooh now, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? Without me, without me, without me, yeah. At home, want you by my side, hello, don't run and hide, come on and love me, come on and love me. And I'm all by myself in me, oh, and I'm all by myself in me, oh. Won't you here with me? Hello? Won't you stay with me? No one to love me. No one to love me. No one to love me now.
Anyway, I just want to say in the 60s, there was only 4 TV stations and we're watching black and white, right? And the atmosphere you can't create. That live scene can't be duplicated, can't be created. Young people going out, having a great time because there was less to do and there was less people, right? And you cannot recreate it. What here in Australia was unique. But the Hodgins Battle of the Sounds, it was unique and it was great. And as I said, when you got radio going behind you, you got to understand, we got AM radio. Everyone's walking around with the transistor. Not everybody was watching TV. People were outdoors, camping, going to picnics, meeting friends, church groups, whatever. That's what it was. You basically, if you had a car, gee, you were lucky as well. But I'm saying everyone lived around their transistor trying to soak in the sounds from the UK, the US, and then Australia's trying to find their own identity with their own music here, coming up with unique songs that don't exist anywhere else in the world. And that's what makes it so unique. Australian music is so unique. And then when it got sold out to the world and certain groups broke through, it wasn't because Australia never had the talent. We're always equal to the talent out there because we're unique. Yeah. But at that time, you're in competition. You didn't know how to do it. How do you do it? How do you go to America in the 60s and make it big? How do you go to the UK and make it big and compete with the Beatles and compete with Hermits and compete with the Monkeys out there? That's what I'm trying to say. We just soaked it in. And our culture became bigger and bigger as we learned what it was. I mean, I remember going to school, right, in the 60s, and you listened to AM radio, and you were soaking it in. And, I remember the first time Yummy Yummy was played on the radio, the first real bubblegum song that made it, and it was like the greatest, Gary Puckett. I remember beautiful women going to parties, carrying records, and going and playing Gary Puckett, because that was Gary Puckett. Yeah. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Unique sounds, unique groups, unique artists, and it was very unique in the 60s. And I just want to say, Jack, it's great having you on the show. It's great. We can't wait for the book, and we're going to be really big fans about it. And once the book comes out, we want you back on the show. And what I want you to do is tell everyone again how they can contact you, because if anyone has any footage or any video or any photos of Hodgins Battle of the Sounds, contact Jack, because here's your chance to maybe get it in the book. We want to know more about it, and we're not even writing a book. So it just says it's a topic that really, it really gets to me, because I experienced that kind of thing in the 60s and you didn't know what was going on. And it's only now you realize, gee, that was something great. So tell everyone about it, how they can contact you and what you're actually looking for and what you want to know. You want to know bands, you want to know photos, you want to know any footage, just tell them.
Sure. Well, look, basically I'm looking for anything, but specifically, if you played in a band, a band that played in it, if remember the heat they played in, remember the songs they played. I'm trying to document that. Photos though, yep. If you've got photos, audio is great to have. Anything, memories, anything you can offer. I'm here to listen to it, to read it or whatever. I don't care. Whatever you have that's Hoadley's related, I'm taking it all in. And to do that, you can contact me at jackhodgins67 jackhodgins67@gmail.com.
I'm really looking forward to the book. It's fantastic that we've got a unique part of Australian culture that we're still talking about today.